Hello out there. We're working on page 16, and this is April 27th. We're trying to finish this up, um, but these images are taking longer and longer to render. Uh, this first layer here took almost 23 minutes. Last night they were taking like 15 minutes apiece, and it took almost the whole night just to get. It felt like it took the whole night to get a page done. Um, so, it'll probably be like the last video where I'll end up cutting with each, I'll end up trimming between each picture just because of the time. And so we save that one. Let's open that layer. Scale that one. Let's see. Oh, like coming from her butt. Oh boy. How about there? Bring you up here. And how about we cut it? Oops. There. Whoops. On the wrong layer. Okay, hold on. I was doing so good until I started recording. uh, let's see. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now let's unparent them. Let's see. I think we'll put the light back in there. Let's take the green shell off and put that in here. And I'm going to bring the building back. Structure, furniture. There we go. And because of the angle of this one, the doors had to go off too. So there's doors. And we've got our... Let's see, I'm going to angle it from this one. Let's see. I guess we'll start with him. I think I set this up. Was this on another previous video I did where I sort of set this up so just hitting negative would take him down to where I needed to. And now we've got to line him up with the couch again. Let's see. This is Z, right? Okay. Okay. And up. I'm going to bring her up just a little. Oops, up, not down. And I got to get this arm out of the way. Come on. When I focus on the object, I expect it to focus on the object, not zoom out as much as possible. Ugh. I think, let's grab the shoulder too. I think I'm going to delete the keys. Okay. I'm trying to think. Initially, I was going to have him looking at the toy. I feel like he should be looking up at her instead. Let's see. I'm not sure you're going to see it, but I sort of want to have this. This leg needs to be out just a little, I think. Um, Except it can't be running into her, so not that much. Let's see. Good. I think here I think I can get away. I think with this one I can get away without the outside, so I can do this in one layer. Okay, render that one. Let's see. Let's go new layer. And I'm not really sure why I'm recording. Um, this is probably going to be one of those rare pages that will be appropriate for YouTube. So figure if I don't record this one, who knows when the next one will come up. That, and even if I'm not really very talkative, I just sort of feel like I need you guys on this ride with me for this page. Merge down, let's select none. Yeah, okay. And we'll save that. Paste that as new layer, transform, rotate. Hold that, I think we can go. Da, da, da. And I know it's probably too early to think to like really get into it, but I have to say, like while eating a couple hours ago and sitting through Battlestar Galactica on Comet, that works, right? Yeah, you guys kind of started working on characters for Burn Pit. I keep talking about Burn Pit, and I want to do it after I finish this and the Iron Brotherhood series. Once I get United done. it's like mealtime hasn't really been conducive to working on this, and this particular story it just can't seem to work on when I've got the TV on anyway. So I figured character creation was a good use of time. I'll save that file. Save. So, let's see. So where are we? Oh my god, 84, and it's still taking forever. So so this is like I was talking in the previous video of characters. I've got it open here. So this is what I've got so far. My collection of characters. So I think this one here is going to be. I've got no names, by the way. I haven't named anyone yet. So I think this guy is going to be my main character. He's sort of he's going to be the career military man who's put in his 20 years and he's retired. He comes home and here's his wife. I wasn't going to make her look so old and wrecked, but it just kind of. It's like once I started going, like I couldn't help myself, and I think it'll fit with the situation. Like kind of like retirement is eye-opening to what his life has become. It's like while he's in the military, he's had like the rose-colored glasses on, or he's had the blinders on, or whatever you want to call it. So, so here's his wife. Oh my god. It's the idea is I think she's going to announce that she's leaving him, and over here is his son. Um, I'm not too sure on his look. It's like to me he kind of looks like he's half a junkie, and I sort of want him to look a little bit normal, if you will, plain, ordinary. I don't know what you want to call it. He almost looks like somebody who's getting himself in trouble. But I think it's the idea is he's either in college or he's heading off to college, and it's like the wife. He doesn't want anything to do with his father, and oh, excuse me. And the idea is college is going to be the time for him to break away, and so it's he starts. So it's like the idea is he's going to start retirement, and all of a sudden it's like it's the moment where his family just falls apart and leaves him. And then I've got like over here going to be the people he once served with. It's the former his former teammates or whatever you want to call them. It's like over a 20-year career, he served with a lot of people. So this is the group. The idea is this is the group that served with him at the particular time that they were exposed to the chemicals at the burn pit or whatever. So it's going to be the idea when he hooks up with these guys, their lives are all wrecked. So like, let's turn it sideways. As you can see, we've made them all like all pudgy, out of shape, portly. The idea is that they're going to be pretty much laid up in bed, crippled with pain, that sort of thing. So it's going to be this complete. It's like he's going to find. So the idea is to find redemption through helping these guys, and at this end, it's sort of in doing so, like he'll end up bringing them along on the muscle growth journey. And this guy on the end is he's just the doctor. The one guy that that just serves to explain what's going on, and sort of he's just sort of the vehicle to connect my main character with the particular guys he served with. That's oh wow, whoa, 8 minutes. Well, that's like a record here with this story. Oh boy. Scale that 34. You up there. And where did we cut it? Here, right? Okay. Had it cut. Yeah, okay. File save. And let's come back. Let's see. Uh-huh. Let's go sideways with that. Hmm. This is Z, right? Let's bring her closer. Right? I think. Yeah, okay. 36. Let's render. Control C that bubble. So it's like into like at this point, a lot of the elements aren't set in stone. Oh my god. Let's see. It's like at this stage, I'm just kind of brainstorming the ideas. So I've play around creating the characters, and that sort of gives me select none. Helps give me some ideas of where to go. Where the story's going to go, I should say. Oh, paste as new layer. The next, select none. So it's like it give you an idea of where the of like where the actual physical characters end up driving a story. My initial idea was that his wife announces she's leaving him, files for divorce, and then, like, when the growth starts later on, let's see, later on she'll stop by for some. They'll make up like some excuse, some like just excuse to get her back in the household for a moment, and and it's sort of, and the idea would be that when she sees him and what he's become, all, it's suddenly like her mind is kind of starts changing, and it would be the initial idea is that she falls back in love with him and wants to give him another chance. um what am I doing here? Select invert, shrink, select invert, cut. But it's like creating her. Oh my god, I just laugh every time I see that. Oh, like creating her, I'm almost like inclined to change that to to, to where like to where like she decides she wants to give him another chance, and instead of like the two of them reconnecting, he's gonna tell her where to go. Oh, or on the other hand, it could be like with the guy with like he and his teammates. It's sort of maybe it inspires her to get into shape, and while we don't see her with the same growth that the guys experience, maybe we sort of see her getting more attractive. You kind of see her thinning up and getting into shape and that sort of thing. Or maybe I'll create another girl and he'll end up falling for her. Oh god. And it's like with the son, I'm kind of thinking like if I keep this look, then what I might end up doing, what I might do, because I'm not really, I'm not really keen on this like slacker look. So the other possibility is if I don't change him, I might end up doing it when he's away at college. He kind of like cuts his hair and changes his style. College. He changes his style in college. Um, it's still preliminary, but the next. But I think this is my core set of characters. I'm not sure if I'll need anybody else, but the next step will be to start thinking of what I want for sets. Um, I think at some point I've picked up like a basic doctor's office set for when he's getting checked out to figure out what's going on. So I think I'll sort of just use that without modification, just because I don't really expect to be there, spend a lot of time there. And there's no real point in building a doctor set when I already have that. What I'll need is his house. it's probably the first set I'll build is his house. And not really, like, at this point, sure what it's gonna look like. But I mean, he's gonna need a space to build a home gym, so I'm not sure. Like the default would be that it's a garage, that he builds the gym in a garage. But the other possibility is I just make a basement. I'll probably end up going with the garage because I really never really bothered to make a basement. Oh my god. When I build these houses, so it'll probably be another garage. Um, and then I think what I'm gonna end up having to create domestic scenes for each of these guys over here that are just gonna end up being one-off uses. So probably instead of building full houses for each of those guys, I'll probably just design a bedroom, just a basic bedroom. Show them laid up in bed, have him like convince them to let him help them, and then like from there on, everything is just at his house. Instead of seeing them at their houses, at that point they'll show up at his. And I think we're almost. Come on. There we go. Yay. Okay. Open as layers. Number 76, layer scale. 33. Oops. Come on. I'm gonna put you there. Let's see. Actually, you know what? As funny as it would be having it point to her nether regions, I feel like this would actually be a more appropriate. There we go. Mm, okay. Oh, there we go. Actually, I think you're still find you. It's going to come down just a little. Um, just a little. And 77. Whoops. Fingers aren't lined up here on the keyboard. You're so big. Okay. Edit, paste as layer. You're so big. Yeah. And I guess as far as the coronavirus is going right now, it seems like it feels like our infection rate is just seems to be like exploding every day now. But like I guess thankfully the death rate doesn't seem to be increasing. We seems like we still have like a steady, like it's like thankfully like a steady rate of death every day, instead of it sort of skyrocketing. And I guess like on one hand, it feels like we're lucky that it seems to be largely hitting nursing homes and the prisons, and not quite so much the general population. Not that it isn't, but it seems like the spike is just coming increasingly from like these closed environments, like I said, the nursing homes and the prisons. But I know some of you are probably in like areas that are getting hit harder. And my brother's in a spot that's um, becoming I guess it's becoming a hot spot. And I've still got like probably three elderly aunts living in that area too. That I guess I'm concerned about. I don't know if it's fair to say worry, because in the back of your mind you kind of feel like where they're living in sort of a little bit of a rural part of the state. So like in the back of your mind you're sitting there thinking that like the chance isn't so great that they could be infected. But it's still, the possibility is still there. And it's like, I do have to admit, I think, I did kind of think about it. Hmm. I'm sure like a lot of you have, like, even like a lot of you, maybe you're not susceptible, or, maybe you don't think you're susceptible, but, I'm sure a lot of you have, elderly relatives that you're probably thinking about at the least. It's one of those things like, I think I feel like I'm sort of lucky where I am, but, and I probably don't sound like I'm too concerned in these videos, but, I do kind of think of, like, there are like people I care about that I do think about, as well as, like I said, I hope you're all, I just like do kind of think about all of you out there too. Um, this was, this shot just makes me laugh. I'm sorry. I, I start to, oh, this one's going to take forever. I can see it already. There's something weird here where I start like going into a maudlin topic, and then I'm looking at this picture, which which is just so funny. Like, oh my god. I guess we all need a little laughter in these times. Come on. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, this one will probably actually go to 10 minutes. And I'm kind of like in a spot where I'm just like out of conversation. So we'll trim here and come back in a moment. Oh my god, and here's my picture. And how long did it take? 11 minutes. Oh my god, so that one was almost. Where are we here? Open as layers. Let's see. Ah, what is going on? Okay, I'm trying to hit 3, and this keeps not. There we go. I keep hitting 3, and it's giving me a different number. Oh my god. No, this was here, right? Yeah. Edit, cut, and select none. Just gonna save. I think. I'm gonna do an obligatory carry him in one hand shot here. So what we do is we'll just line up the hand. Place him in the hand. then parent him to the hand, and then I'll reposition the hand to where I want it. Okay. Yeah, shoot. This is actually going to be a tough one to do, huh? Okay. What do is so and it's funny. It's like I talk about the aunts, having these aunts I think about, and yet, like, oddly enough, I really haven't seen much of anybody in ages. Just like moved away and never went back. Although I did go back. I did head up to visit my brother for Christmas. So I got it right before coronavirus shut everything down. It's kind of a lucky, I think I did like visit one aunt and her family. It was sort of like, I think kind of one of the things I really did want to make sure I did. That's I kind of like it was sort of like in the list of, oops, I gotta get this hand back again. In the list that, like, in the category of like it would have been nice, but it would have been nice if I could have visited like another one, but it probably wasn't gonna it wasn't gonna be too torn up if it didn't happen. I didn't think it was gonna happen, whatever you want to call it. But it's sort of like the sad. I think the sad thing with us is that, like, in our family was never a big was never felt that big or that important. And I mean, I guess, I mean, I guess, like, on one point, like, both my parents were the youngest in large families, so, like, a lot of their, I think they both, siblings were sort of grown up and on their way out of the house. But I think by the time that, like, either of them were really old enough to appreciate that they had siblings, or old enough to start forming like bonds with siblings, that sort of thing. Unfortunately, so there was, like, my father's oldest sister. I have to say, like, I never met her. or any of her, any of the cousins on her from her family. Um, okay, this looks weird. Maybe if off limit. Okay, that doesn't look quite so weird. And like the weird thing is, we live practically down the street from his older brother, and we very, very rarely ever visited. That's kind of like, unfortunately, how important family always felt growing up. So, and then you had like, the ones that lived out of state, so you never really, anyway. Um, but, I guess my mother was close to her the oldest sister to some extent. So we kind of, so we probably saw her family and the two cousins on her line, her son and daughter, a lot more than anyone else. So it was like, they were the ones that kind of wanted to see the most. Da, da. And it's sort of I guess it's like the second sister. She would have been the third kid on my father's side that I'd kind of like to get in touch with. I think, and I have to say it's like probably selfish. It's probably more of like I've gotten the impression that like she more than anybody is sort of the family historian, so to speak. I think she's been one that's done, I guess genealogical research, and I kind of went digging a few years ago. So it's like one of those things where, ah, no, I want this one. Where it's like I feel like I'd like to reach out and touch base with her. Like, and it sounds kind of morbid, but before she dies, because like really, this generation is at that point, where where they're all like slowly passing. They're passing away. That generation is just passing away. Let's see. What the heck was I going to say here? Ooh, excuse me. I don't know. I think it feels like, it's almost like at this point it feels kind of weird to just say like, like on my part to reach out and go like, hey, how's it going? By the way, can let's swap stories? you know, I'm not, I'm not really interested in how you're doing. I want to know the family tree, that sort of thing. Like, it's like I said, it feels selfish. Um, and two, I'm not really sure like how many bombshells we're going to end up dropping on each other. I'm assuming she already knows everything I found out. There's a lot of, um, I don't know if bad, it's bad stuff. I guess a lot of the family stories we grew up with, I found out weren't true. And my brother was saying a few years ago he heard a story from that aunt that was kind of disturbing. So I mean, it's like stuff I wouldn't mind knowing the good from the bad because it really can't get any worse than what I've been hearing. But at the same time, I've got kind of doing this like invert, right? Yeah, okay. I've kind of like found some suspicious stuff that I don't know if I'll like end up stirring up a hornet's nest or not. By the way, is it possible that your father, like, what? Because it's like, again, in where family is, my father's parents, his father died less than a year before I was born, and my grandmother died like just after I was born, so I never knew them. And, my father never talked about either of them. So all we ever, so there were only little bits that we knew, and I think most of it was assumption. And it's like nothing turned out to be true when I ended up like digging through the family tree. Um, so it's honestly like I have no idea how my father would have taken it if he found out any about like some of these stories weren't true. My grandfather was in the military, and there was always a sense that he was like a World War II hero. But I go digging, and his World War II service was in the Naval Reserves, so he wasn't he wasn't in the Pacific battling the Japanese kamikazes or anything like that. So I don't know if like that kind of revelation would have been like soul crushing to my father if he found out about that. That's the kind of thing. But I mean, I suspect, I suspect like my aunt, that aunt. like would have known because she would have been old enough to know what was going on when World War II broke out. Now I suspect if she's gone like digging through a lot of archaeological records and all the online sites, and she's probably, oh, I don't want to play solitaire. I don't even know why I've still got that open, but um, so I mean, she probably, I'd be surprised if she didn't know like what his real service was. But I mean, it wasn't just I mean, it wasn't just that. I mean, he was a U.S. Marine in the 1920s, and then enlisted in the Naval Reserves just before World War II broke out. So it was like he went back. But I mean, if you're like, we always thought he was a big World War II hero who flew planes during the war. It was kind of a letdown. It was, uh, and apparently it caused a lot of strain in the family. So that was, like some of the bad stuff like I'd end up hearing about is how it wore on the family while he was away. Um, I mean, I guess that's like one of the things I'd like to find out is why he enlisted in the Naval Reserves. you know, it's because his enlistment date is like 3 or 4 days before Pearl Harbor, so it almost doesn't make sense. I mean, it's like if it happened after Pearl, if it was like they attacked Pearl Harbor, and then he goes and enlists, that would have made a little more sense. So it'd be kind of interesting to see if like they knew if whether it was just like a weird coincidence or if he somehow had this, or he somehow knew we were going to enter the war and, being a former Marine, maybe he knew he would have been recalled. So by enlisting beforehand, he gets to choose the service he wants to be in rather than let the government choose it for him. Did I parented him to the hand, right? Yes. I don't know. It's sort of like on my mother's side. I guess that's like a little different on my mother's side because we knew there was a lot of tragedy in the family. We knew there was a lot of tragedy. We knew it. We knew it led to some dark days in that house back when my mother and her sisters and brother were kids. Let's see. I think it's like I think in one video I did, I think, was it Shrimp of the House Showtime I did it in, or was it in one of the other, I forget now, where I kind of talked about like these, it's like you get these family issues that just carry on from generation to generation. You never seem to be completely free of them, because each generation is affected by how the issue weighed on the previous generation, and then they carry it off to the next generation. It's like, it's like this sick cycle that just never gets broken. And I guess that's like the other thing is visiting. When I went to visit my aunt, we kind of got talking a little bit. And I guess there were like issues that sort of went even beyond sort of the losses that they faced. I guess there were issues with, how is she carrying him? Oh, okay. It's this really doesn't look right. What the heck? Oh shoot, that's why. Oh wait, no. Hold on, let me unparent him a minute. Okay, this seems even weirder. So it almost sounded like there were issues between like my grandmother's mother and then her mother. No, that doesn't sound right. Maybe it was the mother-in-law. It would have been like her father's mother. What am I looking for here? Eyes. Currently used. Yeah, we're not going to see that finger, so I don't need to worry about that. Um, Yeah, come on, give me the head. There we go. And then those were times where everybody just dealt with their issues by turning to the bottle. So, that ended up creating issues of their own when, like, everybody's an alcoholic. Hmm. Let's see. Okay, 79. Well, that's going to look weird having these little tidbits, so let's rotate it down. Okay, there we go. And I think I'm just going to have this be a silent panel. So let's see. Um, yeah, I need to paste it there. And I have a weird theory that my father's father was actually 2 years older than he was pretending to be. Let's see what I'm looking for. Cut. Slate line. Merge down. There we go. Yeah, because like the 1910 census, sort of according to the 1910 census, he would have been born in 1902, but he enlisted in the Marines in 1922. So he would have been, so if he was born in '02, he would have been 20. And I think it's the 1930 census is the next time he shows up in the census. For some reason, I can't find him in the 20 census. But in the 30 census, it indicates he was born in '04. And then his grave marker has '04 as his birth date. And it makes sense that '04 would be the birth date if he enlisted in 1922 when he would have been 18. But um, he's got a brother who died as a child, and he's buried next to his mother, and his gravestone has his birth date listed in '04, 2 months before my grandfather's supposed birthday. Let's see, what am I doing here? Save. So that fuels my theory. Like, the census by itself doesn't mean much because people just kind of enter things. Maybe the census taker could have misheard something, or maybe jotted down the wrong number. But when he's got a brother whose gravestone lists birthday too close, I'm almost, I'm sort of inclined to believe that he was actually born in '02, and at some point they sort of changed the history to claim he was born in '04. I mean, it wouldn't be the first story that somebody told in that family, and it got passed on as fact. Oh my god. Yeah, that's the thing. Because I'd love to ask my aunt about that one, but that's like the one I don't know how she'd take. What? In this version of the story is the one where he's going to end up fat and hairy. So we've already got the hairy part, but we're pacing it like so that we'll get that last change. Um, this is what, page 15, maybe somewhere around page 20, give or take a page or two. Excuse me. So, like the previous changes, we'll spend a few pages having fun at this size before she decides to give him the little gut, or the not so little gut, or however you want to imagine it, and then have her play around with that for the last few pages. Oh, and you know what? I'm kind of like running out of topics to keep this going while this is going on, so I'm gonna cut off. I don't know if I'll come back and show you guys putting this together or not. So if I don't, well, maybe I can stick around for a minute. Yeah, I guess we can. I guess I can keep you waiting for a little bit. uh, it just feels, it's just like, feels like I come from like such a fucked up family, but I'm sure everybody's got sort of their own drama, their own messes, their own, skeletons in the closet, so to speak. Um, Short tales, and I think that's sort of what I try and 34. I think that's sort of like what I try to sort of get across in the muscle growth stories. I've said it before that they sort of represent reality, where the life we really live, whereas like these shrink tales represent sort of the life we'd like to live. Here it is, like you're finding the girl of your dreams, and, and as weird as this is, and as resistant as he is at first, he realized, this is when he thinks about it, once he sort of experiences it at the end of the story, he realizes this is what he, this is, um, this is the dream life for him, that sort of thing. Or like Shrimp of the House, where, oh no, we want to cut. Where it's like everybody fights, but they sort of get along and come together at the end. It's the life we'd like, where I, okay, no, so I got to invert. Okay, I'm forgetting where I am. That's the family situation we'd like, where you got the problems, but everything's all right at the end. Whereas the muscle growth stories generally, you've got the problems in your life that you just have to live with. There aren't necessarily any solutions. You just have to figure out how to. What just happened? Oh my god. Hmm. Invert. Okay, I'm talking, and for some reason this isn't invert. Do it that time. It did it that time. Sort of the recognition that everybody's got problems going on. Everybody's got something. We just have to kind of find our own ways to. Um, where is this bubble? I don't like this. Okay, there we go. I just don't want the edge of the bubble to line up with the edge of the panel. Even if I have the edge of the bubble in the middle of this line, that's fine. It just kind of looks funny when the borders cross. Here we go. Save. Image, flatten, and file, export. And this is going to want to be a PNG. So, 15. And oh my god. And now let's find it. Sounds like you're ready for another new experience then. Experience. Okay. You really did it this time. You made me as small as your stuffed animals. And with this view, it's the penguin you gape at. You're so big. Why don't we take this to the bed and you can find out how big I really am? And since we're going to be going to more nudity, you'll have to wait until the story hits Patreon to see it, because we don't want to violate YouTube's terms of service. We don't want to get their panties in a bunch. So I will see you whenever I get another age appropriate page. And who knows, it could be once I get back to the Iron Brotherhood. Or maybe I'll get another video before this story is done. Who knows? But, I'll see you guys later. I hope that wasn't too maudlin. And, I really do hope you're all staying safe out there. I hope you keep staying safe.